This is Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium.
Today's guest is Tyson Leslie. He is a keyboardist, guitarist, bassist, and vocalist, known from many bands, especially VIXEN. It is a pleasure to have you on, Tyson.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You know, you and I met about a year ago. We were in M3, and I was introduced to you by my friend Jack Frost. And
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. You really are like a machine. I was looking at your bio, and then I was like, wow, I didn't realize all the things you're still involved in. Wow. So I want to know more about you, though, because I looked at a lot of things online, and I'm really fascinated. First of all, by your own work. Second of all, by your collaboration with these other amazing bands, but also your own talent. I understand you have an interesting way you came here to America. You were you were part of Operation Baby Lift through Vietnam.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So after the Vietnam War ended around 74, which was when I was born, there was a whole bunch of orphan babies, and they got put on cargo planes and Pan Am planes, and some of them weren't even strapped into seatbelts. It was kind of a weird situation, and some of them were in these like cardboard boxes, and I was one of those babies apparently, and brought over. And they took them to different parts of the United States, the Midwest, and then the East Coast and West Coast. And I was in the Midwest in Denver, Colorado area, and was adopted by a Caucasian family that was based out of Greeley, Colorado at the time. And I lived there from then until about 1988. And at that point moved to Kansas City. But my childhood was in Greeley, and we adopted another girl from Korea. So that was my sister, Samantha. And yeah, I'm very thankful for that situation, considering I don't know what my life would have been like had that not happened. Could have been very, very different.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I want to know when you realized how you were involved in music. Was that as a young child, or when did you feel like you got involved with listening to music or bands?
My mom always says that I started playing piano when I was 3, and just kind of picking up melodies, your Mary Had a Little Lamb type of melodies and things like that. My dad, he didn't really play anything, which is weird, but he always had weird little musical instruments, things that he would get me for Christmas and stuff like that, like a toy organ or a drum set or a fake guitar or whatever. And I took lessons, classical music lessons, from a lady that lived up the street for a while. Then at some point, I went from playing piano, and then I discovered Motley Crue and Quiet Riot and Twisted Sister and all the bands that were on MTV at the time, and Prince and Michael Jackson, and that changed. All of a sudden, piano wasn't as cool, and I wanted to play guitar. So I entered this talent contest, and I won the contest and got $100 from it, and took that and bought my first guitar at a pawn shop with my dad. And I taught myself how to play guitar. And then every other instrument that I play, like bass and drums and stuff like that, I taught myself because sort of out of necessity. I'd be in one band and the bass player got fired. Well, I guess I'll play bass for a while. And I get pretty decent at that. And then I was working in a piano bar in Kansas City called Howl at the Moon. And you basically kind of jump around on multiple instruments there, and they have a drum kit. And so I was playing drums 5 nights a week, so I got better at playing every night, and being really nerdy and listening to a lot of really choppy, amazing drummers like Neil Peart and Mike Portnoy, but also a bunch of jazz guys like Dave Weckl and, things of that nature. Like I got into a lot of fusion music in college. So I listened to all kinds of different styles of music all the time. And I play all kinds of different styles. And I'm known obviously as a rock guy in Nashville, but I played country, I played R&B and hip hop music. People go, what kind of music do you play? I said, whatever I get hired to play, because it changes from gig to gig.
I love that. I actually am curious to know, what do you prefer? So when you have your alone time, what is your go-to music?
Well, since I've been home from the Monsters of Rock cruise, because we just did that a couple of weeks ago, I've basically been listening to 2 artists over and over again, and nothing but, and that is The Darkness and like their entire catalog of material, and a band called Marvin. which is a fusion jazz band that plays on all these cruises. They're kind of a break from all the rock music or the other genres of music, and they're absolutely extraordinary. So I've been listening to both of those artists a lot, but what I listen to is different on a day-to-day basis. I may wake up one day and feel like listening to Dwight Yoakam. The next day I feel like listening to Beastie Boys, and the next day I feel like listening to Slayer. I mean, it's just different all the time. I listen to classical music a lot. My son writes classical music, and I go see my 21-year-old child play music in an orchestra playing music that he wrote, which is really extraordinary and a lot of fun to witness. So it's just, it strikes me differently each day. It keeps it entertaining and fun.
Well, it's very impressive. I've had a lot of musicians on the show, none of them quite like you.
Oh,
It's very impressive. I
well,
was reading a
thanks.
lot about you, and everything I read was he plays 6 to 7 nights a week. And he's the busiest guy in the business, and he plays with everyone, and his talent, and it's just one thing after another, and all very positive. It's just
Well, thanks.
incredible. When do you feel like you were invited to play with what you would call the biggest band or your first biggest
Oh,
band? Because
well, my
you
first
you
big
go
band
back to
was,
like 2009 or something like that,
yeah,
right?
well, I mean, that was my first major artist that I played for when I played with Corey Taylor from Slipknot. It was a pretty short-lived thing. We only did it for about a year and a half. I think Corey was needing an outlet for what is now called CMFT, which is the couple records that he's put out under that moniker, which is it's not as heavy as Slipknot or Stone Sour at all. In fact, it's more of a straightforward rock kind of a band material, whatever. And we were getting put on all these metal festivals, and we opened up with Let's Go Crazy by Prince, and people just didn't know what to do with us. It was weird, and it was a lot of fun. And I love, like, Corey is an extraordinarily talented guy. All the guys in the band were really cool, but we all kind of lost touch over the years, and that band kind of dissipated. I think his label and management and the people that were involved in his world at the time weren't quite ready for that yet. They were just like, okay, let's go back to Stone Sour and Slipknot and writing books and the things that are making us money. And so I can't quote that as fact, but it just seemed like that's the way that the direction things went. And so he kind of shelved that music for a long time, and it finally came out shortly after COVID, if I remember correctly. And it's really good. The songs are great. And, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely miss being part of that and miss working with him and miss that world. But he's living in Vegas now, and he's got a whole different group of people that are playing with him these days. And then several years went by, and I didn't really do anything but working in piano bars and things of that nature. And then I moved to Nashville in 2015. 2 months later, after I moved here, I was playing country music for the first time in my life with Tracy Lawrence, which was terrifying. And I wasn't very good at it. And I got fired about a month afterwards. And mutually, we were both like, yeah, this isn't working. Like this is definitely not my wheelhouse. And I ended up in the VIXEN camp, and that, was a band that I grew up on it, and I loved. And back when Edge of a Broken Heart was a hit on TV and things like that. But as far as to answer your question, the biggest day of my life in terms of working with heroes and people that used to hang on my wall as a child and posters was Eddie Trunk's 40th anniversary show a couple of years ago. And I'm up on stage, like, playing music with people like Alice Cooper, which was my dream gig my whole life, was to play for that guy, and Sammy Hagar, and the singer from Kevin from REO Speedwagon, and Brad from, I mean, the list was, Corey actually was there. Corey Taylor was there, which I hadn't seen him in 12 years at that point. It was really good to see him. I don't want to sound like a name dropper, but if you want to know who's on it, just look up Eddie Trunk's 40th anniversary party. And it was absolute insanity. I could not believe I was there. And I was in Las Vegas, and talk about, imposter syndrome. I mean, these people have been famous their whole lives, and here I am playing keyboards with all these people. That was a really, really surreal day. And then obviously flash forward to about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I don't know what it was now. And I was on stage in front of the largest audience I played for to date, which is 320,000 plus people, with Brett Michaels at the NFL draft in Pittsburgh. So that was pretty awesome too.
Wow, Brett Michaels, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Every
it was
time I
fun.
see him in my head, I'm like, Poison. I could, so much he's
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with Brett a few times, and it's always a great camp to work with. His band are super fun people, and yeah, I love those guys. And
Wow.
Brett's always super nice. He's very, very, very easy to work with.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to go back and look up that 80 Trunk event because that's amazing. The other thing that you had said, and I want to go back to, but I understand you kind of made history with Vixen because you were the first male member to play on stage with an all female hard rock band.
I wasn't the first. I mean, they've always had a keyboard player, but back in the 80s, they had him off stage. And then when they reformed in 2012-ish, around that time, I don't know if there was a guy before Chris. I replaced a guy named Chris. So he was on stage with them. And I'm not sure if he was the first guy or if there was somebody before him. I feel like there was one person before him possibly as well, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And it's interesting dynamic to be in that band because when I first joined the band, I was kind of told I was supposed to be the invisible person. Like I mean, I was on stage, but in terms of pictures and videos and things like that, I was asked to not be in any of those things. And because their whole brand is all female band, which I get that, and I was totally okay with that. And I'm still okay with that. However, some of that has evolved and changed a little bit. And now I get to do the bow at the end of the show. And I'm sometimes in some of the pictures, but I hate photo shoots and things like that anyway. So I'm always delighted to be like, okay, bye, girls. See you later. I'm going to go play my PlayStation in the hotel room, or I'm going to go hang out with my friends or go explore the city while you guys have to do work stuff and I can just go hang out.
Wow, I love that band. They were there in M3 last year. That's where I
Yeah.
ran into you. And every time I hear those songs, I'm like, wow, I could picture myself what I was doing, where I was doing. And that's what I hear so often from the fans is that a lot of these bands that are still around and that are still playing those hits, that fans are transported back to where they were and what they were doing. And that's part of the whole attraction with music. It's just like a release of memories for the fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nostalgic, and I mean, I go through it too. We played the 80s cruise a couple years ago, I think. And I was hanging out with the guys from LA Guns and Corey Glover from Living Color. And we were watching the band Devo, and we were like a 12-year-old at a Taylor Swift concert. We were so excited because like I'd never seen them live before. And I love that band. I've loved them since I was a kid. So I think it's important to remember, especially when you get to the level that those guys are at, that we were still fans too, like of other artists, and we still are. We go on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and you watch all these bands, but you might be watching, I don't know, Striper, but then there's Roxy from Vixen, or there's Paul Taylor from Winger, or somebody else. There's always other people watching. There's always other people that are. We're still fans too. At the end of the day, we still love each other's material and whatever. So we try to support each other in that regard. And it's always even more fun when you are in your hometown or you go to other cities. You show up to the concert that you're going to see, and there's somebody from our world that's there also and that's hanging out because we're all just we might be in the business, but we also still love the artists and stuff like that.
That's so great. I wanted to mention your own music. We're going to talk about some of your songs, and I've had a
Okay.
chance to listen to them. The first one we're going to talk about is called The Little Green Honda. Tell me
Right.
about that song. I love it.
Oh, thanks. I was in a band in the early 2000s. We had a girl singer in the band, and she had this Honda Civic that was just a mess, and her transmission was messed up, so she couldn't go in reverse. So we'd finish the gig, and like two of the guys would have to push her car out of the parking spot so she could leave. And there was a crack in the windshield from when her boyfriend got mad and punched a crack in the windshield. And I was like, this is a really funny subject matter for a song because the car is such a piece of crap. Like, this is going to be funny. And she worked at a guitar store, and she's really good looking. Like all the guys would go buy guitars just to look at her because she was a beautiful, beautiful girl. So I wrote a song about it because I just thought it was funny to be, tongue in cheek. It's very, very influenced by a guy named Butch Walker and his band, the Marvelous Three, who is just like my favorite songwriter of all time. And I wanted to write a really high energy power pop song to open up the record with. And so that's the one that came out.
That's great. So we're going to play that now, Little Green Honda.
Flows from the end of her leaves. She's got a whole lot of magic in her half-minute fingertips. She sells loud rock guitars to the pretty boys that play in the bands. She's got a whirlwind lifestyle that eats her with the time on her hands. And when she drives herself crazy, she don't use a car, 'cause the one that she has, it doesn't get her very far. She's got a little green Honda. She's got a little green Honda. She's got a little green Honda that don't go in reverse. She's got a whole lot of attitude, back to the birth. She's got a little green Honda with the crack in her windshield. So take a look at that girl as she moves along the stereo. She make a grown man fall over and tumble with his nose to the floor. Every freak on the street wants to be the next to be a man. And she likes the attention, but she don't know if they really can. And when she drives herself crazy, she don't use a car, 'cause the one that she has, it doesn't get her very far. She's got a little green Honda. She's got a little green Honda. She's got a little green Honda that don't go in reverse. She's got a whole lot of attitude, back to the person. She's
So, talking about that song that we just heard, how did you come about making that? Was that your first album?
It was my first album as a solo artist. So I'd made some other recordings with other bands up to that point. But as a solo artist, I produced everything, I wrote everything, I played almost every instrument on the record, except for I brought in some friends. So my one of my best friends in the universe, his name is Go Ray, and he played drums on the whole thing. And then I brought in some guest guitar players, like my friend Freddie Francis, Tori Stoffrigan from formerly of Enough's Enough, Samantha Fish, a handful of guitar players, a lot of singers that were my friends that came in and did some backup vocals on there, which was really cool. Everything else was done by me. It was really cool to just try to do everything myself. But as time has gone by and I've grown as a songwriter and a producer and all those kinds of things, I've come to enjoy the art of collaboration with other artists a lot more than trying to do everything myself. And so now I prefer to be in a scenario where I'm in a room with a bunch of other musicians and I just go, here's the idea of the song, here's a demo version, or here's me playing it. You guys do whatever you do because you're going to do better than whatever I have in my head. So another song that we talked about that I think you guys are going to feature is called Burning Time. And that was a song that I collaborated with other artists and other musicians on. It became the biggest song that I've put out so far. And it was also, featured a lot of legitimate 80s kind of era rock star kind of people. And after that, I decided everything I'm going to put out from now on is going to be collaborative. And that's not to say that I won't do a song every once in a while that's just all me. But as far as like a whole body of work, I've really enjoyed the art of working with other people, and because other people are going to see a song in a different way than the way you see it. And so they'll bring something to the table like, whoa, that drum part's a million times better than anything I would have thought of. Or that guitar solo, I couldn't play that in a million years. That's so much better. I get a lot of joy out of hearing what other people come up with on my material.
That's great. Yes. So when I was listening to Burning Time, I loved it. I actually played it like 3 times in a row. And it
Thanks.
actually says Mercenaries underneath it when you play it. So was that the name of the album?
That's the name of the band, essentially. So,
Oh,
or the
okay.
concept of the band, because basically anytime that I'm going to put out stuff like that, I'm going to call it mercenaries, which is because to me, a mercenary is, you're hiring like some sort of badass to come execute the job. And in this case, the badasses were Billy Sheehan on bass, Roxy from VIXEN played drums on it. Jimmy Bell, who was the guitar player for Autograph for many years, was the guitar player on that record. And then Todd LaTorre from Queensryche, who's the current singer for Queensryche, and I co-wrote the song together. He took the song and rearranged it and came up with the vocal ideas. Again, he made a good idea of a song into a great song just because he brought his ideas to the table that I didn't have. And it turned out to be so much better than I could have imagined.
Wow. Yes, they're all heavy hitters in their own right. I know all of them, and I just cannot believe the power in that song. I mean, I literally just played it like on replay 3 times, and
Well,
I was
good.
like, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look for that one to feature it if it's available on social media because,
Yeah, all of that stuff's, it's on YouTube, it's on
oh,
every
great.
on
Okay.
on Spotify and Apple Music and all of those kinds of things. Just to show you a testament to what the music business is like. It's the most streamed song that I've had and the song that's gotten the most attention. And then I got a check in the mail that December for $1.36 from all of those streams. That's what I made from that song after all the money and the time and the effort that went into something that I think came out really, really good. And I got $1.36 from it. It's just like it's such a weird business that we're in.
Yes, so the music world has changed with the streaming, residuals and, what you would say as profit has changed, remarkably. But it's more than just getting your dollar check. You're giving such an experience to so many fans. And that's something that doesn't have a price value on. That's
Sure,
incredible.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of us in this day and age right now, we don't do write original songs and do all that for money, because there's no money there to be made. We do it just because we have to, or we're passionate about it, or we need to get it out of our heads or out of a computer hard drive and out to the world. And whether one person listens to it or a million people or a billion people, it doesn't matter. It's really just because that's what we do and who we are as artists. We need to get it out there.
Yeah, so we're going to play Burning Time by the Mercenaries now.
Time is an illusion, but the illusion is about to run out.
Will
It's so interesting. I wanted to circle back to something you had said earlier about doing the cruises. I have not been on a cruise like Monsters of Rock or the 80s cruise. I've heard so much about it. I see all the pictures on social media and I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous. How is it different playing on a ship? It's got to be way different than playing M3 or one of the other events.
Well, I mean, the biggest difference is that so most bands play 2 shows each. That way, people get an opportunity if you miss one show, because there's 50 bands, at least on the Monsters cruise. Not all of them are like that, but the Monsters cruise and some of the other ones I do, there's about 50 bands roughly. And so you can't go see everybody in a day. So you might miss Vixen's first show, but oh, I can go see them on Thursday or whatever it is. So everybody plays at least a couple times to try to give everybody an opportunity to see them. There's nowhere to go. So you're going to intermingle and mix in and meet your favorite band members. You're going to meet people all the time because there's literally nowhere to go. Like the only way that they're going to not be seen is if they hide out in their cabin the entire time, which some people do. People that are either shy or they get bamboozled. Zach Wild, you did not see him very much. Sebastian Bach, you didn't see him very much out in the open unless he just, had something that he had to do or he felt like being social that day, whatever it is. But most of the people, you kind of see him. Oh, there's so-and-so from that band in the cafeteria, or there's so-and-so from that band watching the other bands and stuff like that. Or there's Justin from the Darkness singing karaoke at 3 a.m, whatever it is. And it's a lot of fun. There's nothing like it. And for a musician like me, there's no better way to network either, because again, there's nowhere to go. So I'm probably, well, shoot, he's busy right now, but I'll probably see him tomorrow. Maybe I can grab him and have a conversation. On the last night of the cruise, I took this book with me. It's a book about 80s metal bands, and half of the people that were in the room at the artist party, which they do at the last night of every cruise, are in that book. So I was like, I went there with the Sharpie and I was like, all right, you're signing this Ted from Danger, and you're signing this, Reb from Winger or whoever. And it's funny to see the reactions of them looking at their 20-something-year-old selves with humongous hair and makeup and all kinds of ridiculous clothing to be able to, sign this thing that kind of captured their younger days.
Yes, those were the days. When you mentioned Ted Poley, he was at M3 with us last year.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of energy too. It's really it's really amazing when you see them still at it. Even M3 last year, I mean, it was such a treat to see David Lee Roth. Like I had never seen him.
Oh, he was so good that year.
Oh,
It was so
my
good.
gosh, I couldn't believe it.
I've seen videos recently where he wasn't as good, but man, I'm glad we saw him when he was kind of came back out and I think he felt like he had something to prove, because there was so much trash talking about him when he was out with Van Halen. I think he really felt like I better step it up and make this the show that everybody wants to see. And he did, man. We were standing there thinking, all right, well, we'll watch a little bit of this until it starts to suck. And then it didn't. It was so good that we watched the whole thing and we left. Everybody was smiles. It was so good.
Yes, and I was so excited to see him because in the 1980s, I did not see Van Halen live, and it was something
I didn't either.
I always regretted that. My first band was actually Rat. That was my first concert, and it was Rat and Poison together. And
Nice. Yeah.
and I've seen them ever since. But to see David Lee Roth and to see him on stage and to have read so many books about Van Halen, Eddie, David himself, to see him in action was just really incredible. He really is the showman. I mean, when they describe him like that, that was a great experience. Wow. So I wanted to touch on another thing that you had said, because I've had a few musicians on the show that also went down to Nashville and ended up doing rock. Describe for our audience. Some audience members have not gone to Nashville. I have family members that are in music in Nashville. There is a separation between the country and the rock. So can you describe kind of how it is if they went to visit there? Or like you said, piano bars. I've seen the dueling pianos in Florida. Like that really draws a crowd. Can you describe like the Broadway scene of Nashville?
Broadway scene is sensory overload at its finest. So there are about 4 blocks, First Street to Fifth, that on either side of the street has a 3, 4, 5, 6 story building that each has bands on it playing from 10 a.m. until 3 a.m., 24/7 every day. A lot of them are named after some country star or whatever. So Jason Aldean has a bar, and this guy has a bar, and that Miranda Lambert has one, and it's just all these people's names, Luke Bryan, and it goes on and on and on. But the thing is that a lot of people think that Nashville is just a country town, and it very much is not. It's almost split right down the middle. In fact, there's a lot of bands that are strictly rock bands. Like if you like 80s heavy metal and that type of stuff, then go to Bon Jovi's club and watch a band called Hand Over Face. That's all they do is play the kind of stuff that you would see it in Three or on the Cruise or whatever. I mean, they don't get super deep, they're not playing Dangerous Toys or whatever. But like I went and saw them the other day, and when I left, they were playing White Lion. So they do play stuff like that down there. But then there's a gazillion country artists out there that are really, really good at that too. And then I play in a band, Kid Rocks, on the rooftop Sunday through Wednesday, and we play pop music. We're playing Katy Perry, and we're playing, Lizzo and Bruno Mars and Michael Jackson and Prince and stuff like that. So it's all over the map. And most bands are also there taking requests from the audience all day long. So, you'll hear a lot of people, bands don't get paid very well or at all in some cases. And so they're very reliant on the tourist tips. That's how we make our living down there. So you will hear singers all the time go, well, it's $20 for a request, and we're splitting that 4 ways or 5 ways or 6 or however many people they have in their band. So you want to hear Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, throw $20 in the tip jug and we'll play it. Whatever it is you want us to play. You want to hear Country Girl Shake It For Me by Luke Bryan, cool. You want to hear Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot, it doesn't matter. It's $20. Like, throw it in the jug and we'll play it. And I played everything from all of that to Slayer. Like, it just was whatever, like whatever people ask for. If the rest of the band knows it, we'll give it a try, And sometimes we don't know it. Sometimes we'll hold our phone up to our ears and listen to part of the song, go, okay, I can get through this good enough. Let's go. And that's kind of how we get through it.
Wow, that is super talent. I had a country star on this show from Nashville, and that is Logan Layman. And she literally,
I know Logan. She's great.
She literally said the same thing. She's like, they have to look it up on the phone, and then they're like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we'll be with you in 1 minute. And then they're looking at it. Yeah. Wow. So appreciative. These stories are great because this is what I consider like the behind the scenes stuff, to hear really what musicians go through and to see really how much preparation it really takes, especially someone like you. You're hopping from one band to another, going from a cruise to a live performance to a football stadium. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
I just live by my calendar. I look at the calendar every day. I like, okay, it's Tuesday, so I know I'm going to be if I'm home and it's Tuesday, I'm going to be at Kid Rocks from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. That's just my Tuesday nights. On Wednesdays, I know I'm going to be at Bon Jovi's from 6 to 10, and then I got to take on over to Kid Rocks and play there from 10 to close. And it's Thursday. Well, I may have the day off because usually I take Thursdays off, but some days I'll pick up a gig somewhere here and there. And then Friday and Saturday, I'm off somewhere else in the country, either playing with VIXEN or, I was doing some other things. I was playing with Ricky from Poison for a little while. And, or I also book dueling piano shows all over the country. So this weekend, I'm driving to Little Rock, Arkansas, and playing there all weekend from Thursday through Saturday.
So you'll have to tell us, what does the future look like for you? What do you have coming up for the rest of the year?
Oh, the rest of the year, I was like, I have no idea. Like, there's a lot of things that are really up in the air. VIXEN really slow this year in terms of dates. We don't have very many. So I'm hoping that will change or that'll pick up. I don't really have anything huge on the horizon. The draft thing was about the biggest thing I had on the calendar so far. But I'm doing a lot of traveling, going to North Carolina, going to Oklahoma, going to Georgia, playing Atlanta at the end of the month, and going to Kansas City and doing this jam that I do every year called Purple Jam, which is about 120 to 50 musicians from Kansas City all playing Prince music for a night the day before Memorial Day weekend. and we do that every year. And this is the 10th anniversary of Prince's death, so we're making a big deal, kind of thing. Other than that, there's not really anything big on the horizon except for a handful of VIXEN shows, and then wherever I end up. I'm doing the Chris Jericho wrestling cruise in November. That'll be a lot of fun. And that's about it so far.
Wow, very exciting. What we're going to do is we're going to end the show with your Cradle to the Grave. Just tell us about that song. When I listened to it, I was like, oh, this feels so country.
Interesting. Well, it definitely didn't come across that way to me. I mean, my whole influence on that was a band called T-Rex. And I really wanted to capture that, like big vocals, big sound vibe. And I wrote that song and traffic lights. I was driving somewhere, and every time I'd stop at a traffic light, I would add another lyric to the song. And I got home and I just got this little recorder out, and I just recorded the idea for the song into my recorder. And then I went in the studio and made a real basic demo of it. And this is what I mean by collaborative is so much better. I gave the drummer this very, very basic loop drum beat, and he took it and ran with it and made it so much more interesting and more fun. And then I played everything else on the record except for my friend Dan did all the backup vocals, and then my friend Phil Schaus, who plays with the band Accept, he did the guitar solo on it. Super fun song. The lyrics are kind of nonsensical. They don't really mean anything. They're just a bunch of ideas. And I made a video, like a lyric video for YouTube, that's kind of goofy and shows my tongue-in-cheek type of humor about it. But it's just a fun party song. It's, the idea is just like, let's just go as hard as we possibly can, and like it's the end of the world. Like, who cares? Let's just have fun.
Yes, I saw the video. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, literally, it's going according to like the title. It's talking about like living your life.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Wow. So just plug your social media. Tell us where we can find you, find your music.
Well, all of my stuff's really easy to find. My name is Tyson Leslie, TysonLeslie. And if you just look that up, you're going to find Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and basically everything. It's one of the kind of advantages of not having a name like James Smith or something like that. I have a name that I was able to kind of buy all of the URLs and all of the, I can use my name for just about everything. And so if you just search and Google Tyson Leslie, you can find all of my social media there. I do just about everything except for Twitter. I'm not really a big fan of that, so I got rid of that, and I'm never on it anyway. But Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all of those, that's where you find me. YouTube as well, SoundCloud, etc. All of it, just Tyson Leslie.
So exciting. Wow. Well, thank you again for being on the show. We're going to roll
Thank
out.
you.
Yeah, we're going to roll out to Cradle to the Grave by Tyson Leslie. Thank you again, Tyson.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Creme de la creme and the violin fan. Wait to get a message. the thing in her nose. Turns on the nurse clocks wherever she goes. Always has a face buried in a baby grand. Writing songs to say, hey ho, Mumford and Sand. Who really cares? We're all so free. It doesn't make a difference to you and me. We're up all night 'cause we wanna get laid. We drink up all your wine as we cradle to the grave.
You have been listening to Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium, Dream Central Station, LLC. My audio editor is Al Hemberger at the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, New York. This is WNEW 102.7 FM radio.